The last couple of days, we've been watching a video on what's required for life on Earth. So you already know this first part. It says we are carbon-based, so we need carbon compounds or organic compounds. We also require a liquid. On Earth, that liquid is water, but like we saw on the moon Titan, it could also be methane or anything else in liquid form. And finally, we need an energy source, and our energy source is the sun, but like the moons Io and Europa around Jupiter, that energy source could also be friction caused by the orbit. So thinking about what's required for life, what are some forms of life on Earth? Try and get a good range. So we probably decided on things like plants and animals and humans, but we also want to remember things like reptiles and amphibians, the different types of life forms under the water in deep places, microbes, and small, tiny organisms. Now we want to talk about those because they live in extreme environments, and these extreme environments are going to help us to talk about other planets. So life can survive in some pretty harsh conditions, like in very hot places, maybe out in the desert where there isn't much water, in acidic places like the oceans we saw or the lakes we saw in the video where chemicals have been left there, in very high pressure places like very deep down under miles of water in the bottom of the ocean, in dark places without sunlight, so they're getting energy from a different source, in very cold places, again, without sunlight, so getting energy from other sources, and also anaerobic. And anaerobic means without oxygen, and so there are animals and organisms that can survive without breathing in oxygen like we need to survive. So the question becomes, can we find what sustains our life on other planets? Is there extraterrestrial life? Life outside of Earth? So let's look at what we have on Earth, and then we're going to compare it to a couple of other planets over the next couple of days. So some statistics or some facts about Earth. The Earth's radius is about 6,400 kilometers, and a radius is from one edge to the center of the Earth, okay? Remember, in science, we want to use metric units, so we'll use the kilometers, but if you want a comparison, it's about 4,000 miles. Our atmosphere, which is the gases outside of our solid Earth, we have about 78% nitrogen and only 21% oxygen, which might be surprising because we need oxygen to survive, but the majority of it is actually nitrogen. We also have small amounts of other gases like carbon dioxide, which is CO2, argon gas, neon, hydrogen, and methane. Again, for quizzes and for research, you want to remember those two main gases, nitrogen and oxygen. Okay? And our atmosphere helps us be protected against things out in the universe. Okay? And so it does a good job of blocking some of the kind of dust and other particles that are flying through space. Gravity is the force towards the center of the Earth. It holds everything to the Earth and pushes us all in. Without gravity, we'd be floating off the Earth, so it's good that we have gravity. And one thing we want to remember is the bigger the planet, the larger the gravity. So if you have a really, really big planet, you would get smushed to the Earth by the gravity. Or if you have a really small planet, or like we saw with walking on the moon, the smaller it is, the less gravity, and so you can bounce or kind of fly off the planet. Our gravity seems to be perfect at about 9.8 meters per second squared, and that's a force, so that's pushing us towards the center of the Earth. Our temperature is also really good. We get an average of 12 hours of sunlight. That's our energy source. And so our average temperature is about 15 degrees Celsius or 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, obviously, it's much colder here right now. This is an average, so it can be higher or lower, just depending on where you are on the Earth and also what time of the year it is. So 59 is probably our average in maybe the fall or the spring. Okay. Our water coverage, we all know that we need liquid to survive, so about 71% of the Earth is covered in water, and this is in lakes and rivers and oceans. Our composition, so composition means what we're made of. We've got all three states of matter. We've got a solid core, so that's kind of the part that we can stand on and holds us. We've got liquid water deposits, so those are going to be our lakes and oceans and rivers, and we have some solid ice too. And we have a gaseous atmosphere, and those are going to be our nitrogen and oxygen and carbon dioxide that are above us. Each of these things make it possible for us to live here. So think about if we didn't have liquid water, or if we didn't have our atmosphere, would it be possible for people and for other animals and organisms to continue living on Earth? So our question then, and what you guys are going to be researching later today, is what about other planets? So Mars has evidence of water deposits, and it's got a methane gas atmosphere, two of the things that help make Earth habitable, let us live here. Europa from the video has ice-covered oceans, so they have water, they've got an energy source, and possibly they might have organic compounds down in the ocean floor vents. And we also talked about Titan in the video, which has an atmosphere and it appears to have water. Okay, so all of those things add to the ability of these places to support life, or to be able to have life in those places.